Thank you very much, Neil. Thank you for the opportunity of being present at this webinar, and for real estate investors' involvement, and for We Connect You in terms of making this platform and the opportunity available to us. We really appreciate the opportunity to address the huge number of people that have joined this webinar, which is no doubt an indication of the success of these kind of sessions. So well done to all of you involved. And I'd like to also just say thank you very much to all the previous presenters who have put together wonderful presentations today. And I'm really proud and happy to be involved in an industry that involves all of you. You've done an exceptional job today. So my job today is really just to speak to everybody that's in this webinar with regard to NAMA. I think, as most of you are aware, I've recently taken over as chairperson. I was originally the chairperson of the Gauteng West region, which I joined a number of years ago, eventually became chairman, got onto the main board, and then I took over from Chantal van Heerden as the national chairperson towards the end of last year. So just in terms of NAMA is the National Association of Managing Agents. It's a voluntary non-profit organization that promotes and advances community scheme management and administration in South Africa, and the common interests of those engaged in the business of community scheme management and administration. Currently, we are represented in 7 regions, which is the Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, the Western Cape, Free State, Gauteng East, Gauteng North, and Gauteng West. Head office is in Pretoria, and we have about 400 members, just in excess of 400 members, spread over the following categories. So we have now what we refer to as corporate members, which are our managing agent members. We have regional service provider members, who are service providers to the industry, attorneys, plumbers, paint suppliers, accountants, etc. We have national service providers. We have a number of those that support us on a national basis, and those include entities such as Nedbank, Stratafin, King Price Insurance, MRI Software, Santam, and Sectional Title Solutions. And then the last but not least, this year we have added the additional category of membership called community scheme members. And again, just to be in a situation of trying to explain why we did this, is as a board, we looked at the situation of managing agents. It's a finite population, and the question essentially was what was going to happen when we effectively got to the utopian situation of every managing agent in this country being a member of NAMA. We would then have no more new members. So this is where the community scheme membership came from. I'm sorry, what I haven't done is shared this my slides with you. All right, okay. I'll carry on in terms of just referring to my notes. I'm not sure why the presentation won't share. So just in terms of membership, my apologies for that. In terms of membership overall, we have at the moment 411 members, 290 of which are managing agents, and 121 of which are what we would classify effectively as affiliate members, or as we've said, the members that are represented on a national basis. In terms of the community scheme members, this was all linked really to a process of what everybody has talked about today, which is increasing the education levels, specifically of the people that we deal with, and we use as tools in our business to actually deal with our clients. And those are effectively the community scheme trustees, or effectively boards of directors. And also, we must not exclude from that the other targeted population as far as making education available to everybody, and that's the portfolio managers themselves. I think one of the things that we have identified as an industry, that there are a number of portfolio managers that are out there in the managing agent or property management space, that do not have necessarily a professional qualification or an academic qualification for that matter. And many of them have actually just been to the University of Life and have learned to do what they do after many, many years of involvement in this industry. And I think certainly the importance of academic input, of educational material, training material, etc., is something that's also directly linked to the whole process with regard to the formation and responsibilities and obligations of CSOS, is the issue of making sure that everybody in the industry is better trained and better equipped to deal with all of the issues and pressures that we face in this industry. So as far as community scheme members are concerned, because this is new membership, effectively what we have made available is provision for a community scheme to become a member of NAMA. The first requirement as far as this is concerned is that the community scheme must be managed by a full NAMA member. So once that box is ticked, basically it allows the community scheme to become a member. And the membership fees range anywhere on an annual basis from 1,725 Rand to 4,600 Rand, depending on the size of the scheme. Those individual categories are displayed and are there in detail on the NAMA website, if there's anybody that wants to look at the breakdown between the prices for the various schemes. But what this does is it effectively gives the community schemes, the boards of trustees essentially, and perhaps anybody else within the community scheme that might not be a trustee but is interested in educating themselves and understanding how the industry, the community scheme industry fits together and works. And it allows them access to the NAMA website with all the NAMA membership normal advantages in the form of industry updates, the NAMA newsletter, the notifications of upcoming NAMA events, discounts as far as being a NAMA member is concerned, which should all be attractive to boards of trustees and directors that are committed to increasing their knowledge about this particular industry. And then one of the most important things in terms of something that was finalized during the course of last year was the arrangement with the University of Pretoria with regard to the community scheme sectional title nuts and bolts course, which is something that's included in this membership. We as NAMA have contracted to the university together with Enterprises University of Pretoria, who's the other sort of joint venture partner as the commercial arm of this initiative, to acquire a number of entrances, if you like, to the course that has been put together by the academic staff of the University of Pretoria. And the idea is that essentially those courses will be rolled out over time and will move essentially from the nuts and bolts course, which is the first one, to an intermediate course, and finally to an advanced course, so that trustees, directors, portfolio managers, everybody will have access to that kind of material. There will be tutorials that are required to be completed. There are attendances that are required to be completed on a reasonably flexible basis, so that people can do it at night and over weekends if they so wish. But the ultimate outcome of that will be a certificate from the university confirming that that course has been completed. And we think that that's quite an important thing for instance, for trustees to have. I think one of the things that we all face as a challenge in this industry is the fact that people are coerced into being trustees, really because nobody else wants the job. We all know that they don't get paid for it, which is part of the reason of what we've been talking about this morning in terms of pressure on service provider fees. There's always this issue about the fact that trustees don't get paid for what they do, and therefore the process then is to exert as much pressure on people that do get paid for services that are actually rendered to a community scheme. So the idea here, as far as trustees are concerned, is that they would complete this course, or directors, they would complete this course. They would end up with some kind of, we can't call it a qualification, it's not a qualification, but it is a certificate of attendance and completion of the course, so that when people do stand up and raise their hands to be trustees, this is a tool that we can use, if we refer to some of the comments or terms that we used earlier, a tool that can be used effectively by trustees to create credibility and to put them in a situation where there is a reason that the members of the body corporate or community scheme would want them to be appointed or to assume appointment as trustees. One of the other big initiatives that NAMA has been busy with, and you'll all recall that NAMA is a historical organization. It's been going for a number of years, but one of the decisions that was made essentially was to make sure that we proceeded with the initiative that was identified some months ago, and that is for the registration of NAMA as a professional body, and that is considered by the board as something that is very important from the point of view of elevating and creating credibility as far as the NAMA organization is concerned. Professionalizing an industry or a profession, property management in the past was never really considered to be a profession, but certainly if you listen to all of the people that have been on this webinar today, this industry is full of professionals. So to professionalize the industry is something that is absolutely should not be difficult, just by way of really joining the dots with all the professional people and the expertise that we have, the extraordinary expertise that we have access to in terms of our relationships with the people that are related to the management of this industry and what goes on in the industry. All right. So I think as far as that is concerned, is the process with regard to the registering as a professional body is extremely advanced. We are now in the process where through our general manager Kerry Lee, I'm sure some of you have had interaction with NAMA, have engaged with Kerry Lee. She's proved to be a very useful and good asset as far as the NAMA organization is concerned in her capacity as the general manager. She has proceeded with the registration together with a consultant, an appointed consultant, in terms of the National Qualification Framework Act and the amendments to that act, I think, which occurred during 2020. She's worked extremely hard in terms of putting all the enterprise policies, documents and procedures together. They've all been completed now. They've all been reviewed. There were some policies that were identified as not being completed correctly, which has also now been corrected. And essentially the South African Qualifications Authority session for NAMA information session is planned for the 25th of March. So we look forward to being able to give all of you as participants an update once that we go through that particular session. Once the information session has been completed, there will be an application for a formal application for registration as a professional body on the basis that all the necessary documents are in place. That will then be followed by a site evaluation of the actual NAMA organization to make sure that we are compliant from the point of view of the requirements of the regulatory authority. And then once that happens and the site evaluation is signed off, the application will then be gazetted and requests will be made for public comment. And once that happens, we will then be in a situation, hopefully, where the application will then be closed, and effectively the NAMA registration as a professional body will be recognized. And then the plan is that then, in terms of the existing legislation, that recognition would last for a period of 5 years. All right. So I think the situation with regard to NAMA as a whole, and just going back to the situation with regard to the sectional course, the sectional title course, that is something that is seen as a very big addition to the NAMA sort of bag of tools, if you like, in terms of it, together with making schemes or letting them have the opportunity of actually becoming a member of NAMA and enjoying the benefits of NAMA that a lot of the actual NAMA managing agents have currently. Okay, so that's as far as NAMA's affiliation with regulatory bodies and its associates are concerned. NAMA is extensively involved, as I'm sure all of you know, with the community scheme ombud service. We continue to have a very close relationship with CSOS, and in fact, some of the inputs that have come from NAMA have been used to assist CSOS with some of their practice directives. All right, and certain information has also been requested from us, which comes via our members, in terms of looking at possible legislative changes. And I think, there are a lot of you that are involved in this industry understand very clearly that there are frustrations in the current legislation, operational frustrations, interpretation frustrations, as is the case, as I think Marina mentioned before, with any new legislation. It's confusing, the dust needs to settle, things need to bed down, and we need to understand the practicality of implementation of the written word, because that's not always so easy. So, issues of quorums, I know that, quorums are a big issue as far as this industry is concerned. And certainly we would like to look at a situation there of changes around that, and in terms of the practicality of handling those current obstacles that we have to running an efficient business. So going back to the situation with CSOS, we've always identified that an ongoing relationship with CSOS is critically important. It is the dispute, fundamentally the dispute resolution mechanism for the industry as a whole. We meet with CSOS on at least a quarterly basis, if not more often, and on regular occasions with the Chief Ombud, Advocate Boyce Mkisi, which I think some of you have already met. So his input and his direction is very much appreciated, and I think he's made it very clear that as much as the NAMA relationship with CSOS is appreciated, the CSOS relationship with NAMA is equally appreciated. So we have dealt from a financial point of view with CSOS, I know that there have been a number of frustrations in the industry with regard to submissions that have been made by managing agents, which have allegedly disappeared into a dark hole. CSOS, on the other hand, has a situation where it's receiving hordes of money from people which are not referenced, which has caused big issues with for instance, unallocated receipts. They have many millions of rands that are sitting in their organization that cannot be allocated because the information and documentation that was submitted with the payments has not been submitted. So we are working through a process at the moment with our managing agent members or property manager members specifically, with a view to trying to resolve those unallocated receipts problems, really with a view to making sure that we resolve the historical problem. And in addition to that, also try and prevent the problem or mitigate the risk of the problem reoccurring going forward by virtue of a new payment mechanism where we look at a scenario of the community schemes in terms of their registration number being reflected as public beneficiaries, so that when payments are made to CSOS for the CSOS levies, the actual reference will be the CSOS registration number, which means that there will be no danger of receipts submitted or payments being made that then fall into the unallocated receipts bucket. So we have already met with the newly appointed CFO of CSOS. She is from the public service. She was involved extensively in the public service prior to coming to CSOS, so she's very aware of the obstacles and the challenges of running an SOE of sorts, and the financial implications of what we've been talking about to try and make the CSOS processes a bit more efficient for all of the members of NAMA. All right, we've also engaged specifically with CSOS, specifically with regard to transformation initiatives. I think Marina raised it before. This industry, unfortunately, is way behind as far as transformation is concerned. And it's easy to say that. It's also not so easy to understand what the solution to that particular problem is. I think one understands that the number of people that are exposed to this industry, either at school level or school leaver level or early working life level, it's not, there's very poor exposure. And one of our jobs for going forward has got to be to expose those school leavers, those early work life persons, to what goes on in the property management industry, so that we can try and secure resources from the point of view of going forward. All of us are getting older. We are in a situation where we always talk about redundancy in terms of people coming through the system, but the reality is that there's a significant amount of work that has to be done to establish that pool of resources that is going to come through the industry. And just like we've heard from Dani and possibly Toby earlier, the trick with those people is to, rather than deal with some of us that have been around for a long time and are very set in our ways, is to expose the people that are coming into the industry to the tools and mechanisms and technology that is available in the industry, so that there are no bad habits to undo, and we end up in a situation where those people have a smooth transition into an industry where they can add significant value. So
so Guy, just 2 minutes for wrap up, and then what I'm going to do is we're going to have to handle the questions differently, but if you can wrap up, and then I'd like to bring in all the other panelists, and you'll have another opportunity also to have a wrap up as well. So just 2 minutes on your presentation now, please.
Okay, I'll do my best, Neil. That's fine. I'll speed up a little bit. All right. So in terms of talking about CSOS, clearly NAMA has also got another set of relationships with regard to other bodies related to the property industry. Clearly, we remain involved with the PPRA or the Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority, which has now replaced the EAB, as you heard earlier. Rebosa, SAPOA, the National Property Practitioners Council, the Property Service Charter Council, IESA, the National Property Forum, and the South African Institute of Black Property Practitioners. I'm going to just move on now very quickly to the national conference. I think as some of you are aware, and we have already confirmed as far as the market is concerned, is that we will be going ahead this year. Unfortunately, as a result of COVID, it didn't happen, but we will be going ahead this year with the NAMA National Conference, which is going to be hosted in the Western Cape, particularly in Stellenbosch. and on the basis of that, we are looking forward to having had so many people in a virtual audience for so long as a result of COVID. We're really looking forward, I think, to a situation where a personal engagement with our members will be made possible by virtue of presenting members with a useful and hopefully very educational conference. The theme of the conference is going to be, we have finalized, is leading change. I think from what all of you have heard today, there is no doubt that 2022 and the next couple of years after 2022 are going to be significant years of change as far as this industry is concerned, even if it just focuses on trying to implement on a practical basis all the legislation that has been promulgated recently and has become part of our everyday lives. So invitations for the national conference, together with the proposed agenda, will be circulated to members in due course, and obviously will also be available on the NAMA website. Just some financial issues very quickly. The increase in NAMA membership fees, we were able to limit to a figure of 4%. As far as this year is concerned, the board of directors is absolutely committed to trimming expenses wherever necessary. We've used every single mechanism possible to make sure that we're running this organization in a lean and mean manner without taking anything away or compromising anything from the point of view of service delivery. As has been said many times this morning, this industry is about service delivery, and as NAMA representing the interests of members of NAMA, it is important that we see ourselves also as a very important cog in the service industry wheel. Our budget for the year coming forward has also included further transfers to the Transformation Reserve, which is a reserve that was created a number of years ago for the purposes of sponsoring people that are entering the industry. Obviously, these are qualified opportunities where people have the opportunity to make sure that they succeed in the industry without having to worry necessarily about financial constraints, which we will then subsidize via the Transformation Fund. The legal contingency reserve is in place because I think as people have heard over the last few years, a number of legal issues have also cropped up, and there is no doubt that at some stage all the interested parties are going to be asked to contribute to those processes going forward to make sure that we get realistic legal outcomes in terms of the items that are being disputed at the moment. So that's all I have, Neil, in terms of my presentation. Thank you again for the opportunity to talk to all the members. And I see there's some fairly mixed feelings about attendance at the NAMA conference. I really would urge you, please, to make an effort to attend the conference, to engage with your colleagues, and to derive some of the huge value that exists in terms of the various dots that join up and form part of our industry.